Telegram is the social media of cybercrime, and a lot of other really weird, wacky, and questionable or illegal things. So for some threat intelligence and just knowing what is out there, it might be worth monitoring what happens on Telegram. So in this video, I'd like to show you how we can scrape Telegram channels, messages, and all the things in Python. And to help streamline that process for us, let's use the Python library telethon. This is available on GitHub at lonamiweb/telethon, and it's a pure Python 3 MT Proto API Telegram client library that works for bots too. Super duper easy to install and get started. Honestly, it's just a pip install single command, but it is phenomenal. Now I do have to say, and they include this disclaimer here, look, as with any third-party library for Telegram, be careful not to break the terms of service or get your account banned. Be smart, be responsible, do with this what you will, but I want to show you how it can be done. By the way, this video is sponsored by Flare. I'll tell you more about them later, alongside their own Telegram data collection, cybercrime and dark web threat intelligence, and InfoStealer malware logs. So I am inside of my Kali Linux virtual machine, and I just wanted to be in Linux for my development environment. You could use any other distribution you might like, or you could be on Windows. But it's super duper easy. Let me work in a directory that I could work with. I've just created this Telegram scraping directory, currently empty, but what we could do is pip install telethon. Now, if you have Python installed, whatever version you might be able to get pip as the package manager up and ready, we could go ahead and install that. Now, before we start writing code, you might know that I am a big fan of pointing folks towards the actual documentation. Hey, read the information from the source so you can take a look at their Read the Docs resource for more in-depth explanation with examples, troubleshooting issues, and more useful information from the documentation itself. That is online at docs.telethon.dev. And from there, we have an awesome reference for all the things that we might want to do and how we could do it. Obviously, hey, starting from the start, if you're new here, you can jump straight to the installation, which we have just cruised through using pip, getting that installed. If you want to get any development versions to play with it, you can certainly do that or add any other dependencies that you might need. Then we really need to get into action with Telegram. Before working with Telegram's API, you do need your own API ID and your own hash. This you need to get from Telegram itself. So you would log into your Telegram account with whatever phone number of the developer account you want to use, but that is online at my.telegram.org. So when I hop over to my.telegram.org, you will need to log in with the phone number that you have associated with Telegram. That will send you a confirmation code via Telegram and not SMS or text message, but at least that logs you in securely. So I'll enter my phone number here. And after I've entered that confirmation code, we'll navigate to the API development tools. If you haven't done this before, it will prompt you with a create a new application window. And that is where you could fill in your own application details for your app, your scraper, your tool, how you'll use Python to actually work with Telegram. You can enter any URL, or you don't really need to, and the first two fields, just give it a name and a short name. But those can of course be configured, and that will generate an API ID and API hash. Now those need to be secret. They should not be shown, they should not be shared, they should not be given to anyone, because anyone else might then be able to use your Telegram account for whatever they might want to do. That's absolutely confidential. With that said, you'll eventually find yourself at this page, the app configuration that will display and include your app API ID and your app API hash and whatever name or short name you gave it. Obviously, I have these hidden so they aren't displayed to you, and we could set those up as something to work with in our code, or ideally have something to work with as environment variables that might be used in whatever application setting you're using this in. The telethon documentation includes this hard-coded in the script or Python code that they might run, but I think it's better for us to do that as an environment variable. So now, let's get started writing our first script to play with Telegram. Let me go ahead and call this just scraping.py. Opening that up in Sublime Text, my text editor of choice. You, of course, can use whatever you might like, VS Code, Nano, Vim, Emacs, whatever the heck. But let's work with the telethon package, and from that library, let's import the Telegram client. Alongside that, we know we'll be working with some environment variables, so let me import OS so I could easily grab that. And with that, we could set some variables for our API ID and our API hash. Now we will of course set these up as environment variables, but we'll use that os.getEnv function and method to be able to get that value. Let's call this Telegram API ID, and we can copy and paste that, just tweaking it slightly for the API hash. But just for a sweet proof of concept, let's try to stage our client given the Telegram client from Telethon, passing in a session name. Telethon uses some cool management of sessions that you might use as you interact back and forth with the library and with Telegram, so you could call that anon or anonymous or whatever. Honestly, it doesn't matter. It could just be session name or anything. But then, of course, we'll pass in our API ID and our API hash as we have staged that above. And now I would like to build out an asynchronous function, so let's use async def to define main, and with that, that can be all the operations that we might do with our tooling that we build out. So just as a super simple example, a little proof of concept demo to make sure this is all working, let's actually try to work with our client, and it is asynchronous, so bear in mind you'll need to use await as a prefix here. We could try to send ourself a message. Client.sendMessage is the function or method we'll want to call. We can pass in a string me, just for myself in single quotes or double quotes, noting that as a string, and then the message that we want to send. Let's do hello from Python. And now outside of our main function, we do need to actually call it. But remember, it's all asynchronous and it's working with our client. So let's use a with context manager there. And then let's use our client loop.run until complete, as it will handle a lot of the asynchronous operations that we might want to use and still somewhat of a procedural method until it's done. So inside of that, we'll include the call to our main function that we just defined up here. Now, fingers crossed, hopefully I didn't get anything wrong, we could try to see if this will send us a message through our Python script in the Telethon library. But before we get this all going to see it in action, remember we need to actually add those little environment variables for our Telegram API ID and our API hash. So I'll paste those in and I'll hide it because you shouldn't see that. And now that I have that done, I have Telegram open on the left side of my screen with the chat with myself. Just for the simple proof of concept, can our script properly send a message to ourselves? Fingers crossed. Ooh, first time you end up running with this thing, you may very well need to enter your phone or bot token. I believe Telethon does end up using that to help stage and prepare your session. So again, you're using this for your own use. You can have whatever, I don't know, threat model, risk assessment, your own OPSEC you'd like in the mix here. But for the sake of showcase, let's get the phone number in the mix. That will prompt you for another sensitive login code, so just be cognizant of that. But now we should be able to try and run our script and see if it sends us a message. Let me hit enter on our python scraping.py, and there it is. Hello from Python. Now, obviously, that was just a super tiny and small example. We'll dig into a heck of a lot more, but again, I do want to use the documentation as kind of the best reference for that. It gives you all the functionality if you wanted to try and sign in as a bot account, even using a proxy in the back, whatever you'd like. The next section in their quick start gives you a little bit more insight on how you can get some information about yourself or your own account, pull out some properties, work with other things that you might have, conversations and dialogues, messages that you might be a part of, or just sending messages to anyone. And of course, using Markdown in all the messages that you send if you end up using it to send messages. But remember, our purposes are actually using this to scrape, to listen in, to monitor, and to see what else might be going on in other Telegram channels. You can actually add some other triggers or like updates, different events that might happen if you see a certain kind of message or it has a specific keyword. You could build this all out with different event handlers and build out some really slick stuff in your Python code. But again, gentle reminder, be sure that you're working all within the realm of the terms of service and just kind of being smart with whatever you end up doing with this scripted automated process and doing it with a bot or using Python in the mix. But now let's build out the functionality to actually join a Telegram channel so we could see some messages and then be able to pull out the contents. Try to think of like, I don't know, a cool use case where we almost have a Telegram crawler that'll recursively find messages and one after the other, join a new channel, pull messages, join another channel, pull messages. A lot of cool runway there. But we need a couple other new imports. Honestly, just one. We do want from Telethon, and they have a little submodule here, .tl, and then they have functions and channel is what we're going to be looking for. We want to import join channel request. And actually that should be channels, S plural, forgive me there. But now let's build out another asynchronous function that we could just call async def join channel. This will just be a convenience function for us, so we would end up passing in our client that we're working with, and then the channel link. Like you need the username or the invite link to actually gain access to that channel, as you would naturally in Telegram. And you may or may not actually get into the channel, so in which case we could just have a simple, small little try and accept handler here. But inside the try block, let's have our client, remember we'll use await because it is asynchronous, use a join channel request. Just that type that we just imported from that new little submodule import. And then we'll include the channel link that we pass into it. If this were to succeed, we would obviously continue on in our code inside of the try block, so we could just simply display maybe an F string to say, look, we successfully joined the channel, and then our channel link included there. If it didn't work, if our try and accept statement were to fall through, and again, I know this is scrappy code, we'd probably be better looking at the actual exception so we don't miss any accidental exceptions like syntax errors, whatever mistakes we might make. We could just say, failed to join channel given our channel link. But that's all that it really takes. So rather than sending us a message as just a simple, tiny proof of concept, let's try to await joining a channel given our client. But then we need an actual channel link and some place for us to go and a channel to go take a look at. Now, Flare is the sponsor of this video. But I know people get a little hypersensitive with ads, so don't worry, I'm not going to be rambling for like 10 minutes again. I just want to get in and get out and grab some of those sweet Telegram links. Because Flare makes this pretty awesome. Remember, you've got that Google search, basically looking for all events across the dark web, illicit networks, maybe if you want to drill down into chats to see any specific Telegram forums, or just search for them. Look, we could be tracking maybe red team tools or automated pen tests or hacking frameworks out and about for sale. Maybe you're looking for some known threat actors that are associated with ransomware, denial of service, whatever operations, and of course it's pulling all the sweet pictures out too. Holy League is a good example of that, and CyberVolk just as well, maybe some other operations that do defacement and other whatever nefarious cybercrime. Or you're interested in exploits, new CVEs, vulnerabilities that are being taken advantage of out in the wild, all sweet stuff that you could help track down, and at least some behind the scenes, this idea and concept of scraping and looking for messages across Telegram is what you could build out just as well. So for our own Telegram scraper in Python, let's go see what other weird, wacky channels we might be able to join and then lurk in and pilfer some of the messages out. Obviously, they include the room link or the invite URL in each of these. You could see stuff like, Nova Market, anonymous services, weird stuff in languages that I can't read, Insta Market, the Big Apple, Continental Service, New Market, Money Market Hunters, Exploit Hacker Group. Oh, we got to find Ponzors with a Z. I know they were pretty happy when I wanted to showcase them for a bit. Market Shell. Oh, I like that one. Scammers Hell Chat Group. Okay, let's go see what's going on in Scammers Hell Chat Group. We can grab the room link and then let's use that in our code. By the way, Flare had made some really awesome open source tool to be able to do just about everything that we're doing in an even better, faster, smarter way. So I'll include that in the end of the video, but if you'd like to see, a big shout out and big thanks to them for all their support and helping things out here. Let's go ahead and add in our channel link that I've just staged as a variable. And now let's go see if we'll smartly join our Scammers Hell group chat. Let me get Telegram off to the side. Let's get back to our terminal and let's try to run our scraping script one more time. And there we go. Successfully joined Scammers Hell Chat Group. Oh, thanks so much. Oh, what is going on here? Okay. Thank you. Thank you for all of this and whatever we find ourselves digging up now. Look, take this with a grain of salt. Obviously, I'm sure this is all kind of trash garbage. Maybe some of it's legit. I don't know. I'm not going to validate, but maybe we've got the cool capability to do that en masse now with stuff we could build out for our Telegram scraper. But obviously, we haven't done any of the good stuff yet. We are just joining a channel. We now need to grab some of the messages. So this is not hard. Telethon makes it super easy, and obviously we've kind of already built out some of the structure, some of the process, some of the methodology when we might want to build new capabilities to scrape messages. Just another asynchronous defined function where we will include our client as usual, the channel that we're interested in, and then maybe a number of, hey, maybe a limit as to how many messages we'll scrape. We can make that configurable, but it's handy in case you'd like it with a default argument. So all we really have to do is loop through the messages and then pull them back. Let's use asynchronous here. So async for each message in the client's capability when we iterate through messages given a channel based off of a limit that we've provided. Then we can validate, look, if that even has text, if message.text exists, or if there's a real property and it's not just an empty string, what we could do is print out the message. And now obviously you would make this smarter. I don't know, you could have some class object-oriented programming, make this a whole factory machine as you'd like, but for our simple showcase and example, I think this works well. So in our main function, as remember, this is all the capability that we actually want to do using the functionality we've built out. Let's try to now await scrape messages given our client and the channel link that we're working with, and the limit that we could just say is 1 in this case. Let's just get the first latest message that I can track down. Now let's get back to our terminal. Let's try and run this thing. I'll use our Python scraping.py script. It'll join the channel and it should be each message. Or honestly, we can just change that to like message in our iterator. That doesn't really matter. Anyway, I'm human. I make mistakes. Let's do it again. And okay, we got a lot of stuff here because look, this is the entire object in Python. These are all of the things that it will include in all the specific data fields, properties, peer ID, date message, all the stuff. We'd like to clean that a little bit better, and there are some convenience things with Telethon to help display that in a pretty way. We actually get back to our code. Let's use the message.stringify, and that will make that beautiful for us, so we could probably more easily track down what's going on where. There we go. Now we can see all of the properties in a little bit more of a readable way. And we could see everything that might include like the stupid emojis and the text itself if we wanted to print that out, along with its ID, the peer channel, and the sender, etc. So let's make this dumb and stupid. Let's just try to print out the message text for as many as we want, and let's go to like 10. I will in this loop, and again, I know it's messy in its own loop, but let's try to just add, I don't know, a little divider, maybe 40 hyphens at the end or something, and that will just churn out as many as we'd like for the messages in that channel. But think about how now you could process the message text, maybe carve out and find new channel links to join or go lurk in any of those other spots. And I know, of course, we aren't really dealing with OPSEC or the operational security here of you just joining channels. This is for showcase. It is for education. Look, your things you might very well be able to do with a bot very differently, but this is doing okay. Let's now try to run this again and see what stuff that it'll churn out here. Everything that we just saw within Telegram, but now in a Pythonic way for us to be able to do a little bit more processing. So I hope at its core, I know this is baby basics, right? We've got 30 lines of code, but that is a jumping off point if you'd like to play with this and explore a little bit more. There are a lot of other sweet features of Telethon that you could play with. But to showcase just a little bit more sweet Easter eggs, I would love to show you that cool telehunt or telehunting tool that Flare put together for us. This is public and you can find it online on their GitHub, github.com/flared. And then, look, if you want to take a look at some of their API documentations or sweet bindings with Python or Go or whatever to use with their API, what we'll dig into, though, is telehunting. And it is public. You can go ahead and pull it down. You can play with it. But let me show you all the cool, sweet stuff that it can do. And this is a great example of making more of a fleshed out tool and capability rather than just the, 30 lines of code that I spit together in our showcase here. Look, they've got some sweet color. Look, they've got some cool capability with argparse in the mix, and even using some of the natural language toolkit to try to determine the sentiment and try to figure out, hey, is this going to actually mean one thing, good, bad, or ugly, with a lot of the conversations that are going on here. It does have that channel manager as a class that I mentioned, some of the sweet object-oriented programming. So Stuart, big shout out to him. I believe he built this, one phenomenal researcher and developer over there. It's got all the capability to join channels, look for messages, hey, have a little bit better exception and error handling. I don't mean to scroll through this because I know that's hard to do just off the cuff. Kind of overwhelming when I'm just not looking at the code and making the text go by. But let's do it. Let's try the thing out. I'll get back to my Kali instance. Let me open up another terminal. Let me get into that Telegram scraping directory. And let's go ahead and git clone down our telehunting tool. And let's see it in action. Looks like they actually include the requirements.txt. Probably worthwhile to install pip-tac-r requirements.txt. And I am curious what this config.json file is that they have in that directory. Maybe something a little bit more, hey, capability. Ooh, yeah, to be able to look for different channels. Maybe you supply, it'll automatically join and work through. And then try to see any specific message keywords that you're looking for. Any messages that contain hack, carding, malware, exploit tracking. Cool stuff that you could define. And if you wanted to dig into that code, you could see how it would work with it and then use that as a component to determine where to branch off to and to crawl next. That's really all this is, right? Some sweet crawler to see Telegram channels in action. We can try and run this thing. Let me use telehunting, and I do want to use TAC-H to see the usage capability. They've got a sweet little banner up here. Oh yeah, I dig that. Telegram content crawler. Okay, so we could provide the config file if it were in a different path, maybe configure or toggle the message depth or the channel depth, how far we want to crawl and dig through, and of course we'd include our API ID and hash and maybe the phone number for it to be able to work with it. So let's get back to our config.json and then kind of set up these initial channel links or where we would like to start looking around and seeing what weird stuff that we could crawl through. I do want to hop back to Flare just to grab some of these URLs. We could use Holy League as one of the examples for the threat actor group, seeing what they're up to. Let's do the same for CyberVolk. Let's grab them. And let's get one for exploits, digging into those CVEs or threats out on the horizon exploited in the wild. I've just been pasting these into our config.json, and now that that is all staged, we could fire it up and use our telehunting script. Remember our usage information here, we could supply a different path to the config, but I believe we'll use the default JSON in the current directory first. Message depth we could toggle, channel depth we'll set those. I have touched up the code so it'll work with the API ID and API hash from our environment variables. But now let's try to run our Python telehunting with tac message depth. Let's start small. Let's just do like 20 for the start. And then channel depth, we could say maybe 2. Yeah, I don't want to go super duper far. And then we don't need to specify the config. So fingers crossed, this thing will keep us cruising. Okay, firing it up. We got the cool logo. Yeah, we'll need to authenticate. Okay, I started the thing off and now it is cruising. Now remember, this is all based off of our user. I'm not doing any of the OPSEC worry concerns here. I'm just totally cool with Telegram account that I've got, jumping in, joining those channels and seeing what is up. Parsing out some users though, seeing all the messages back and forth, getting the emojis out. All right, a lot of this I can't read, whatever. Cybercrime in the languages that I don't know. Pass that to ChatGPT. That's where we'll use our sentiment analysis, right? And the natural language toolkit and hook it to some AI models, right? That would be really cool to help translate. But we've got all that power now, thanks to being able to do this within Python. How many channels have I joined? Okay, scraping completed. Took about 50 seconds just to showcase. Scraped about 112 messages. Processed 17 channels. Oh, goodness. Outputted these all in sweet CSV files for me to examine, sentiment report, and then a couple high alert stuff, potential threats, potentially positive. Ooh, we could dig into all that. We do have the saved output, but I might leave that as an exercise for the reader if you would like to go try this yourself. How bad does my Telegram look now if I bring this in? What else do we got? I know we started in our all scammers hell chat group, right? With more messages that were coming through as we got started. But what's happening? All right, yeah, we've joined Overflame, we've joined Cyber Dragon, No Name, and some stuff going on. Oh, cool. That, again, look, take it with a grain of salt. Your mileage may vary. Do with it what you will. But I did want to showcase all that. All right, I am a little curious what was going on in those reports, though. I do want to open up, hey, this current directory and see what was in our sentiment report. Analyzing 112 messages and then, neutral situation, no significant threat. Granted, it was crawling through kind of very vastly different things. Concerning messages of fools trying to escape me. Mateo from APT Zone. All right. Recent RCH cyber attacks, cyber power. Yeah. There's not a whole lot I could just say, surface level on that, but it's pulling out the session, of course, and the messages that it would have seen from the CSV file. This is stuff you could get into some Google Docs, Google Sheets, Excel, whatever you want to do to analyze it. What the hell was that? All right, this is why I say, you got to take it with a grain of salt. It is cybercrime, it is shenanigans, it is weird, wild, wacky, illegal, illicit stuff out and about on the interwebs. But look, I do want to show you all it's out there and how you, if you're interested, could totally take a look and use some of the tools, maybe build out your own Python scripts, maybe use telehunting and the sweet open source option with that. But big thanks so much for you tuning in to watch this video. Maybe for you playing along, if you were willing to try and craft out your own little script in Python to be able to scrape with this, on all thanks to Telethon. Hey, making this easy for us. So thank you so much for watching this video. Please do all those YouTube algorithm things, like, comment, subscribe. And seriously, please do give some love to Flare. I know I sing their praises all the time, but that is just genuinely because of how cool they are and all the incredible things you can do with it. And big thanks to them for helping streamline and put together some of the stuff to showcase in this video. Seriously, I'm just grateful for all their support. Link in the video description, jh.live/flare, and I will see you in the next video.